has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michele Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 291, my favorite coaching tool for crazy days. Hi kids. Hi, it's Michele. You know, as far as we know, podcast episodes will live a very, very long time out in the world wide webs. So maybe someday a listener is going to stumble across this one and think, wait, there was really a time when being vegan or plant-based was unusual? And maybe they'll wonder something else. Were people in the spring of 2026 really this stressed out all the time, this distracted, this wrung out by the headlines? Oh, yes. Yeah, we were. Or I am. Anyway, I'm recording this episode a couple of weeks early, and heaven knows what will be in the headlines when you're actually listening to it after the 31st of March, 2026, which is why I want to share one of my favorite coaching tools for those moments when you are stuck in a story. When you are stuck in a story that is making you mad, sad, scared, or disempowered for whatever reason. And it's a tool I use with clients, and it's a tool I especially use with me, Michele, a lot. And especially right now. Right now, one glance at the news, am I speaking just for me? Is it just me? One glance at the news can make it feel like my whole inner world has been hijacked. Maybe it's affordability or job losses or public health anxiety or the problems of our young people. Maybe it's the measles outbreaks and rolling back environmental protections and military operations, all of it, maybe. Or maybe if you're like many of my listeners, you are aware continually or recently of the horrors of industrial agriculture, and some of those people that you love most in the world just don't get it. So it's easy as a human, no matter what or when, to find yourself in kind of a thought loop, a feedback loop where it's just hard to think about anything else, and everything else that does come into your mind gets sort of rolled around in a tumbler with those really negative thoughts. And keeping us, keeping you, keeping me disempowered, distracted. So this is a tool you can use if you are annoyed at your partner or a coworker or at the industrial/medical/pharma complex or at your local PTA or the traffic pattern. And the question is this: what am I not noticing now that is not that? I know it sounds silly, but just thinking about the sentence is sometimes enough to kind of pop me out of my spiral. What am I not noticing now that is not that? And this is not some sort of toxic positivity trick. It's not denial. It's not pretending that the thing that you don't like is no longer a big deal. It is a way of interrupting. It's a way of interrupting the tunnel vision that tends to form around these things that are upsetting us, so we have a minute to get our agency back. When we're upset, when we're scared, when we're angry, our attention tends to narrow, or we shut down, or we lock on to the loudest, most upsetting part of the story and start treating it as if that's the whole picture, that's the inescapable issue. The behavioral science version of it's pretty simple. It's rumination. We tend to narrow our attentional scope, while the practices that encourage us to think more broadly and from a little distance, or from that 52,000 feet view, that can make our brains a little more flexible and responsive. So let me tell you how this shows up with the people I coach, and honestly, how it shows up here in Michele's brain. Sometimes the story is about vegan choices and maybe unsupportive family or friends, and it sounds like, oh, I can't really do this because my husband just is not into it. My friends think they're funny, but it ruins my dinner when they mock me. I don't want to be difficult, but if I don't say something, nothing gets done. I can't be the only one eating differently at the table. What's that like? If I can't get everybody on board, maybe I shouldn't even bother. So those are some sentences I tend to hear from clients, and maybe some of it is actually true. Maybe a spouse is not into it. Maybe friends do roll their eyes. Maybe someone really does act as if your vegan chili is a personal attack. Fine. The point is not that your story is false. The point is that it's incomplete. So we have to try to pause and ask, what am I not noticing right now that is not that? Maybe what you're not noticing is that your choices at breakfast are no problem. Everybody supports it. Maybe lunch is easy. Maybe nobody actually cares what you eat quite as much as you think they do. Maybe they're actually in a bad space with their own food choices. So focusing on you is a deflection for them. Maybe your spouse is not actually stopping you. Maybe he's just not joining you. Maybe your spouse actually has never really heard from you what he could do to be more helpful. Maybe you already have most days working just beautifully, and maybe the real issue is not support. Maybe the discomfort is just your own about standing out. These are all pieces of useful information, because once you notice that, the problem gets more specific, less vague, more workable, a whole lot less dramatic. Or maybe the story is not about family. Maybe it's about the economy or money. Maybe you're looking at the headlines, the grocery bill, the general feeling of, are you kidding me with these prices? And your brain offers up, I can't go on this way. I can't afford to eat this way. It's too expensive to be healthy. Okay, I could do this if I were Oprah, if I were a person with a giant Whole Foods budget, if I had a color-coded refrigerator, if I had more time. And again, part of that is true. Affordability stress is real. Not knowing where prices are going, that's true. A whole lot of people are feeling squeezed. That's not your imagination. But I still want to come back and ask you, what are you not noticing now that is not that? Maybe you're not noticing that the problem's not just vegan food, but a certain expensive version of food marketed as vegan. Maybe you're not noticing that oats are plant-based and beans and lentils are plant-based and rice, potatoes, pasta, peanut butter, frozen vegetables, banana soup. You know, plenty of very ordinary foods are part of this story too. Maybe you're not noticing that you don't need to become an Instagram pantry to make more choices aligned with your values this week. Maybe you're not noticing that one affordable plant-based meal repeated often is still a very useful win. See what happened there? We did not solve inflation. We did not pretend that money is no object. We did not gaslight ourselves in any way. We just interrupted the story that had taken over. And then, of course, there is the news, which when I was a child was maybe even not such a child. When I was young, it was about 30 minutes in the evening, and now it's 24 hours a day. The headlines, they can make your chest tight. Maybe it's those measles statistics. Maybe it's changes in public health recommendations. Maybe it's politics. Maybe it's one more reminder that the world feels fragile and chaotic and more than a little nuts. You know as well as I do that the news does run on outrage. The news does run on doom scrolling. And in your mind, it may jump from this is concerning to everything is falling apart. It may jump from, oh, I need to pay attention to this, to I can't get away from the news on my phone or I'll miss something. Your brain may jump from this is a real problem to what's the point in doing anything? Everything is terrible. So this is exactly when I want to recommend this tool. What am I not noticing right now that is not that? What am I not noticing right now that is not that? Maybe I'm not noticing that I can get reliable information instead of doom scrolling. Maybe I'm not noticing that it's time to probably unplug and take a walk. Maybe I'm not noticing that one concrete action is probably available. Maybe I'm not noticing that I do have friends who I can spend time with that support me. Maybe I'm not noticing that I don't have to hand over my entire nervous system to any headline that walks in the door. You know, those headlines are created for you to click on. Maybe I'm not noticing that being upset is not the same thing as being useful. Many of us start to think that being upset is the appropriate response to what's going on, and maybe it is. If that helps you take action to support yourself and protect yourself and your family and work for your community. Maybe I'm not noticing that I want to help my family, my community, the animals, my own health, my own sanity. Then I need access to more than panic. So that's where we want to try to find ways for agency and autonomy to start coming back. So that's the move. When you notice yourself looping, you don't need to argue with it. It never helps, right? If somebody says, oh, it's not that bad, or, oh, why do you always talk about that? No. First, name the that you are currently consumed with, have a hard time getting rid of. What is the thing you are currently treating as the whole truth or the whole problem? I can't do this because no one supports me. Everything's unaffordable. Everything's awful. It's too late. We're doomed. I've heard that from a number of people lately. We're doomed. Second, notice how it's showing up. Is that a sentence in your head? Is it a picture? Can you visualize it? Is it a pressure in your chest? You're not analyzing it. You're just getting curious about where you feel that negative thought. Then ask, what am I not noticing right now that is not that? And remember what I'm saying, it's not necessarily what's positive. It's not that you're looking for what's something inspiring, not something that would impress somebody. Just what else is here right now that I'm not focusing on? What is one not that thought I could think? What is one not that move I can make next? Not for the rest of your life, not for the quarter, not for some sort of rebrand. No, just what's next? For many of us, we need to take a walk or move or jump up and down. Many of us just need to breathe. Some of us need to make some chili or offer to bring the hummus or skip an argument or turn off a phone. Just What is one thing I'm not noticing now that is not that? We just need one small crack in the story. It's not a new belief. Sometimes it's simply we need a slightly wider field of attention. And then one small move becomes a little more visible again. And I want to be clear, this is not bypassing. Sometimes your story's not wrong. Your story's probably true. Sometimes really bad things are happening, and sometimes annoying things are happening. Sometimes money's tight. Sometimes the news is really upsetting, and maybe it's 100% true. But there's almost always, I'm going to say always, more. There's always more. And when we confuse the loudest part of reality with all of reality, we get smaller, we get helpless. And if you want a conspiracy theory, I'll give you one. I think there may be situations in this world where people would like us small, depressed, helpless, stress eating. So, this is the ultimate subversive hack, right? This is your challenge for the week. There is more. There is more. There is more. And the next time you hear yourself, I can't because, or it's hopeless because, or we're doomed, therefore, pause. Name the story. Ask yourself, what am I not noticing now that is not that? Then make one not that move. Or message me or email me and tell me what's that one thing. Because it's really enough. It's really enough to get that first step out of disempowerment. You don't need a better argument. You don't need more facts to throw in somebody's face. You don't need to necessarily run for office this week. But sometimes simply noticing the thing you have been staring at is not the whole story is extremely helpful. So let me know anytime if I can help you veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.